Hello, beautiful soul. Welcome to your sleep story. I am Teresa Noy, your radical self-love coach. I work with high-achieving women who typically put themselves last to love themselves enough to put themselves first. You deserve to love, cherish, and honor yourself without guilt because your well-being matters. It gives me great joy to be the voice that guides you into a restful sleep tonight. You are so deeply loved. Your existence is the proof. Before we begin tonight's sleep story, let's start with a relaxation session. I'm going to count down from 10 to 1, and as I do, allow yourself to let go more and more. 10. Feel the support beneath you, the support of your bed, the floor, and the earth beneath. Imagine the warm sand of a beautiful beach cradling you, holding you with the earth's gentle strength. Allow that certainty, that solidity to enable you to release a little more, to sink into this moment a bit more. 9. You are safe. All is well. Allow my voice to be a point of safety for you. Allow my voice to be an anchor that keeps you in a safe space. Know that my voice will only ever bring you into safe places. Feel it into your body now. Notice where you might be holding tension. Maybe your feet, your hands, your face, or your belly. Just release it all. Your body has worked hard for you today. It's time for it to rest. It deserves rest. 8. Today is done. Whatever has been, has been. Whatever will be, will be. All you have is now. So thoughts about the day that just was, or days that are to come, don't serve you right now. Allow that realization to enable you to settle into this moment more. 7. This is your moment. You have nowhere to be, nowhere to go. The only place you need to be is here, enjoying this cozy sleep story and the sound of my voice. You deserve it. 6. You deserve it. You deserve rest. You deserve sleep. You deserve to be here. Allow that fact to help you let go a little more. 5. Perhaps allow yourself to feel a little gratitude now. Gratitude for this moment. Gratitude for the ability to rest. Gratitude for the simple things. Your breath, the shelter you have tonight, the opportunity to switch off in a place of safety. 4. Embrace the coziness of this moment, the coziness of lying down in a safe space, moving towards sleep in the beautiful act of storytelling. 3. Begin to engage with your imagine now. Engage with your imagination. Picture a beach in the Caribbean, a secluded spot on the beautiful island of Barbados, isolated from the rest of the world, or another favorite spot that you may have. Allow yourself to engage. Bring that picture to mind and check in with your body again. Make sure you're not holding tension anywhere. Release and allow yourself to sink a little deeper to completely let go now as I tell you tonight's sleep story. Chapter 1. The Loft That Smelled of Morning Before Morning. She climbed the narrow stairs as the bakery's last lights clicked to amber, a soft glow that felt like a lamp left on for love. The wooden steps creaked with the kind of honesty old things carry, and when she reached the small linen loft, the night greeted her like a familiar song. The air was warm and sweet, saturated with the tender ghost of cinnamon, butter, and the shy vanilla that clings to cooling racks. It smelled like patience made edible. It smelled like kindness. The room itself was simple, a low ceiling that sloped like a shoulder, a single window overlooking the quiet street, and tall open shelves stacked with towels and aprons, flour dusted and folded with care. A braided rug lay in the middle like a small, cheerful shoreline, and a wicker basket brimmed with linens waiting for tomorrow. White, oat, dove gray, each one soft as a cloud that preferred staying. She set down her bag, loosened her shoulders, and felt the day step back as though it too had been waiting to rest. Rain began without drama. A few threaded taps on the roof, then a lullaby of gentle drumming. The sound moved through the loft the way a river moves through a valley, assured, unhurried, content to be itself. She drew the faded wool blanket from the end of the small couch and curled beneath it, knees tucked, heart exhaling. The fabric carried a faint trace of almond from last week's croissants, and something in her chest, tightly wound from bright calendars and brisk decisions, unspooled like ribbon slipping free of a knot. On the low table, a small lamp glowed, its shade patterned with wheat stalks. In its circle of light, the basket of linens waited, a soft task, a merciful one. She reached in and lifted the top towel. It fell open over her lap like a pale square of moonlight. She smoothed it with the flat of her palm, and the weave warmed under her touch as if it had been expecting her. Any lingering urgency in her hands dissolved. These were not hands to prove anything tonight. These were hands that would fold softness into softer shapes. She began to fold, once, twice, a neat third. Each towel obeyed the simplest geometry and came to rest as a quiet parcel of readiness. She thought of all the mornings these linens would meet, dough rising in bowls like sunrise in a room, aprons tied around waists that laughed easily, counters dusted with a snow of flour. The thought did not ask her to be there, to manage, to lead. It merely showed her that beauty would continue with or without her effort. Relief entered her bones like warmth from a mug. Outside, a car passed, its tires whispering along wet pavement. Then the world returned to the rain's even conversation. She listened, and in listening, she learned its steady grammar, a hush, a patter, a sigh. The rhythm matched her breath, and her breath matched the rhythm back, the way two dancers find the same invisible beat. She smiled at the smallness of her task and the largeness of its comfort. Folding linen like folding a day into itself, that's what it felt like. Taking the long edges of living and bringing them together, clean, aligned, complete. A simple question rose, unhurried as steam. What if enough feels like this? Not a peak to summit, but a room that welcomes. Not applause, but the weight of a towel settling square in the hand. She didn't try to answer. She let the question sit beside her like a quiet friend, the kind who needs no performance, who shares silence like bread. She lifted an apron next, its cotton patterned with faint blue stripes. A dusting of flour lingered along the hem, constellations from the morning's work. She brushed it lightly and watched the powder bloom, a tiny cloud under lamplight. Even leftovers of labor had turned holy here. She folded the apron in long, slow breaths. The rain approved. From the window, the bakery sign, scripted in gentle curves, reflected backwards in the glass. The letters looked like a blessing written to the night itself. She imagined the ovens resting, the mixers asleep, the bins of sugar and salt dreaming of dust and sparkle. Everything was paused in perfect readiness. She felt a tenderness for the pause, for the in-between that had always made her restless. Tonight, the in-between felt like a doorstep where love removes its shoes. Another towel, then another. Her movements grew smaller, quieter, as if the room were teaching her its tempo. She noticed the nap of the cloth beneath her fingers, the way the edges aligned with a soft click of thread on thread. The satisfying weight of a stack begun. Each folded square became a small altar to the ordinary. Each breath found a longer landing. She tucked the finished towels on the nearest shelf. The stack looked like a pale skyline in fog, peaceful, sure. Her chest loosened again, deeper this time, as if a window had opened inside her. The rain was steady now, not louder, just nearer. like a grandmother humming in the next room. She drew the blanket up to her chin and rested a moment, palms spread over the basket's remaining linens, feeling their cool promise through the weave. Warmth gathered in the little loft the way dawn gathers under a horizon, slow, inevitable, tender. She knew she would sleep here the way bread rises, without force, by grace. The simple desire she had carried, is there a gentler way to be? Did not press for a solution. It glowed like a pilot light, patient and sure. Outside, the street lights softened to halos in the rain. Inside, she folded one last towel and placed it on top of the stack. The room seemed to nod, content. She closed her eyes, hearing the roof speak rain's fluent vowels, and let the night do what nights are made to do. Hold what the day had no pockets for. Chapter 2. The Rain's Slow Conversation. The rain had deepened by midnight, its rhythm more certain now, more sure of its purpose. Each drop seemed to land with meaning, a slow punctuation marking the pause between thoughts. The roof above her was an instrument, its tin surface humming with a melody that only rest could hear. Beneath it, the loft glowed faintly gold from the single lamp, the kind of light that stayed loyal even as the world outside blurred into shadow. She sat cross-legged on the braided rug, the basket of linens beside her, and felt the quiet stretch its arms through the room. The air smelled of warm sugar, rain-soaked pavement, and faint yeast, a scent that belonged to memory more than matter. It reminded her of Sunday mornings as a child, when her mother would bake sweet rolls and let the dough rise under a soft towel. Back then, she thought the towel was magical for making bread grow. Tonight she understood. It was the stillness that did it. Her fingers brushed another towel, cool and damp from the evening's air. She lifted it gently, shook it once, and began folding again. The motion had become an anchor. Fold, smooth, breathe. Fold, smooth, breathe. The act was a prayer she hadn't known she needed. Simple, tactile, forgiving. Outside, thunder whispered miles away, low and thoughtful. The sound didn't startle, it settled, the way wisdom does when it arrives quietly. She looked toward the window, its glass freckled with rain. Each droplet caught a tiny reflection of the lamp and the world behind it. Small galaxies of gold tumbling toward the sill. She thought of all the times she'd chased light in grander ways. Promotions, recognition, proof. Yet here it was, multiplied in water, offered freely. She smiled at the discovery and placed the towel neatly on the growing stack. The beauty of the moment was in its ordinariness, the humble choreography of fabric, breath, and rain. Nothing was striving, nothing was loud. The night seemed to hum a lullaby to her own ambition, rocking it into rest. A soft breeze pushed through the half-open window, brushing against the curtain. It carried with it the scent of wet earth, fresh bread, and something faintly floral from the street below. The mixture was sweet enough to make her sigh. She leaned back on her palms and let her head tilt upward, watching how the ceiling beams held the lamplight like lines of a poem. A question fluttered through her, the kind that didn't demand words. What if peace was not something found, but something remembered? She thought of her days, so full, so scheduled, so measured. She thought of her heart, so vast, so quiet, so patient. And she felt, for the first time in a long while, that the two were meeting again in this small loft above the bakery. The rhythm of rain and breath began to sink, a duet of simplicity. Each drop outside had its echo inside her. The tension that once hummed beneath her skin, the low electric hum of performance, softened until it was only warmth. She realized she wasn't tired in the way she used to be. This was not exhaustion. This was release. Her eyes wandered to the folded linens, their corners perfectly aligned. They looked like little dreams ready to be used, tangible reminders that care can be quiet, that service can be sacred. She traced a fingertip along the top one, feeling its fine texture. The cloth was cool and soft, like calm given form. She took another sip of warm milk, the sweetness coating her tongue, and exhaled slowly. The air moved through her like a song without words. The sound of the rain deepened again, now more like applause than prayer. She imagined the sky itself approving of her stillness. A laugh slipped out, not loud, but real. How strange and beautiful that peace could taste like milk, sound like rain, and feel like folded cloth. She stood, wrapped the blanket around her shoulders, and stepped toward the window. The bakery sign below flickered gently in the storm, its reflection shimmering in the puddles like melted light. Somewhere far off, a bell chimed the hour, soft, slow, unconcerned. She rested her forehead against the cool pane and whispered a thank you to no one, to everything. Behind her, the stack of linen stood tall and straight, ready for morning. Ahead, the rain sang on, endless and forgiving. She closed her eyes and listened, letting the sound pour through her like understanding. The question she had carried, how do I rest without losing myself, wasn't answered in words. It was answered in rhythm. And as the storm moved gently across the city, she found herself matching its music. Fold, smooth, breathe, until all she could feel was the quiet truth beneath it all, that even the sky needs to weep to feel clean again. Chapter 3. The Warmth Between Worlds. Morning came gently, like butter melting across warm toast. The storm had moved on, leaving only the faintest trace of drizzle that tapped playfully at the window panes. The sky outside was soft and pearl-colored, the kind of gray that held its own light. From below, the bakery began to stir, the hum of an oven waking, the muted rhythm of trays sliding, the sigh of heat meeting dough. She woke slowly, stretching beneath the wool blanket, the air around her still thick with the perfume of sugar and rain. The scent lingered like a lullaby still singing its last note. Her body felt rested in a way she couldn't name. It wasn't just sleep. It was something deeper, as if every cell had unclenched its fist and remembered how to open. For a long while, she didn't move. She just lay there, listening to the sounds below her. A whisk spinning, a door swinging open, laughter muffled by walls. Each sound folded into the next, weaving a tapestry of mourning that required nothing from her. She realized, with a small smile, how rare it was to begin a day without reaching for obligation. Here, the only expectation was to breathe. She sat up, the blanket slipping down her shoulders, and reached for the small window latch. The glass was cool beneath her fingers. When she opened it, a soft breeze wandered in, warm, buttery, touched by cinnamon. It felt like being hugged by the air itself. From her perch above the bakery, she could see the cobblestone street glistening from the night's rain. Shop signs swung gently. A child in a yellow coat skipped through puddles, laughing, while a man carrying a baguette paused to wave to someone unseen. Life moved, but it wasn't rushing. It unfolded like the rising dough below her, patient and inevitable. She poured herself a cup of water from the kettle, now cool from the night before, and watched the surface ripple with her reflection. The woman staring back looked softer somehow, no longer sharpened by lists and timelines, but blurred in the most beautiful way. There was ease in her eyes, a calm that didn't need to be earned. The basket of linens waited near the chair. A few remained unfolded, their edges draped over the rim like sleepy petals. She moved toward them and sat cross-legged again, her back to the light. The first cloth she picked up was warm from the air, faintly scented with yeast and soap. She folded it slowly, the fabric whispering secrets that didn't need to understand her. Every fold became a small meditation. Her breath matched the rhythm. Inhale, align, exhale, release. She began to notice tiny details, the way light glowed through the weave, the small golden thread stitched at one corner, the way each towel seemed to carry the day's promise without even trying. As she worked, she felt herself drifting between two worlds, the grounded one of fabric, texture, motion, and the unseen one of memory, imagination, presence. Folding, it seemed, was a bridge between them. Her mind could rest in the rhythm, and her spirit could rise in the quiet. From below came the sound of a bell, the front door of the bakery opening. Then a burst of voices, cheerful and alive. "Morning, Maria," someone called. The scent of fresh bread rushed upward through the floorboards, warm as sunlight. She closed her eyes and breathed it in, feeling the simple holiness of the moment. There had been a time when she measured her worth in productivity, how much she completed, how much she led, how perfectly she performed. But here, in this small loft above a bakery, worth had taken on another shape entirely. It looked like softness. It sounded like laughter drifting up through wood. It felt like breath syncing with the heartbeat of an ordinary morning. When she finished folding the last towel, she stacked it carefully atop the others. The pile was perfect in its imperfection. Edges slightly uneven, a single corner bent from her touch. She smiled at that small imperfection. It made the stack feel alive. She reached for her journal, resting on the table beside the lamp, and opened it to a blank page. The paper glowed faintly in the morning light. She wrote only one sentence, her handwriting loose and unhurried. "I am learning to live at the speed of breath." She set the pen down, closed the book, and wrapped her hands around the cooling mug. From outside, a bird began to sing, clear, unpolished, free. Its song blended with the bakery's soft chatter, the smell of cinnamon, the pulse of her heartbeat. She looked around the little loft, the stacks of folded linen, the small lamp, the window rimmed with silver light, and felt a fullness that had nothing to do with achievement. It was the fullness of being inside the moment completely. The air shifted again, warm and slow. She could almost hear the dough below her sighing as it rose. Life, she realized, does not need pushing. It only needs space. She leaned back, let her shoulders drop, and smiled into the stillness. The world would continue, bread baking, bells ringing, rain drying on stone, and she would move with it, not against it. The morning had no lesson to teach, and yet it taught her everything. Chapter 4: The Quiet Art of Belonging. By late morning, the loft was bright enough to glow. Sunlight streamed through the small window in wide golden ribbons. Dust motes drifting like slow confetti through the air. The bakery below was alive now, pulsing with the rhythm of its day. Dough slapping, timers chiming, laughter spilling like sugar over countertops. Each sound rose through the floorboards like music through strings, soft and uninsistent, reminding her that she was part of something alive and gentle. She moved through the space in bare feet, the wood warm under her soles, the wool blanket trailing lightly from her shoulders. On the counter sat a single croissant wrapped in parchment, still warm. Someone downstairs had left it for her. She smiled, touched by the smallness of the gesture, its quiet generosity. When she unwrapped it, the pastry released a fragrant sigh of butter and air. She tore a corner off, and it flaked perfectly, layers of gold dissolving on her tongue. She ate slowly, savoring each bite, as if the morning itself had baked it for her. There was no rush, no list, no countdown. For once, time felt kind. The folded linens rested neatly on the shelf, pale and perfect. Their presence filled the room with a sense of calm order, a visible rhythm of care. She ran her hand along the top of the stack, feeling the cool smoothness beneath her palm. The act was almost tender, like greeting a dear friend. She had spent years in motion, she realized, managing, producing, excelling. But the loft was teaching her something quieter, that there is a form of accomplishment found not in progress, but in presence. That a folded towel, a warm pastry, a sunbeam on the floor, these too are proof of life done well. The scent of vanilla still lingered faintly in the air, but now it mingled with the citrus notes of morning, lemon zests from the bakery, maybe, or orange oil used to polish the counters. The combination was light and bright, the very fragrance of contentment. She opened the window wider. A soft breeze entered, curling through the curtains like silk. It carried the hum of street life, the clink of a bicycle chain, the rustle of paper bags, the low hum of conversation. The world below was awake, vibrant, unconcerned. She realized she felt no need to join it. Belonging did not require busyness. She could belong right here, in the pause. She sat again by the table and opened her sketchbook. The previous night's folds and lines had left faint impressions on the paper, shadows of motion. She smiled at them, those quiet echoes of care. Picking up a pencil, she began to draw the morning, not the details, but the feeling. The soft curve of sunlight against the shelf, the pattern of steam rising from her tea, the way the folded linen seemed to breathe in rhythm with her. Her lines were loose, unmeasured. The drawing wasn't about form, but flow. She moved her hands slowly, tracing what she couldn't name. Ease, maybe, or grace. When she paused to look, she saw not a picture, but a memory of feeling, calm, taking shape. The bell below chimed again, followed by a burst of laughter and the sound of footsteps on the stairs. She listened, smiling. Someone knocked gently at the door, but didn't enter. "Fresh coffee if you'd like," a voice called, warm, familiar. "Thank you," she replied, her voice still soft from silence. Moments later, a mug appeared on the step just outside the door. She retrieved it, feeling the comforting weight of it in her hands. The coffee was rich and fragrant, its surface rippling slightly as she walked back to her chair. She inhaled deeply, the aroma threading through her like memory. She thought about how kindness, when unforced, arrives this way, quietly, without expectation. How often she had chased connection through striving, when all it ever asked for was stillness. She took a sip. The warmth spread through her, deep and steady. She could feel the boundaries between herself and the world softening again, dissolving like sugar into heat. Outside, the clouds were parting. The sky revealed itself in strokes of pale blue and gold, and the sun brightened the room with every folded towel, every cup, every wooden beam shimmered with presence. She leaned back, coffee in hand, and let her gaze drift across the space. Everything was ordinary, yet everything glowed. The bakery below, the linens, the morning light, they weren't scenes to admire. They were invitations to be here, to belong fully without improving a thing. A whisper of realization moved through her like wind through linen. Perhaps peace isn't something to achieve. Perhaps it's what's left when achievement lets go. She smiled at the thought. The rain had washed the world clean, and the day now opened like a promise kept. She finished her coffee, placed the mug beside the sketchbook, and let the warmth in her hands fade into her heart. Below her, laughter echoed again, threaded through the hum of ovens and song. Above, the sun kissed the window pane with its slow golden assurance. And in that loft above the bakery, she knew she was exactly where she belonged, folded softly into the day, at peace with the simplest things. Chapter 5: The Afternoon Drift. By afternoon, the light had softened to honey. It streamed through the small loft window in languid ribbons, pooling across the wooden floor and climbing gently up the walls. The warmth of the bakery below rose with it. Vanilla and sugar, toasted crust and cinnamon, the comforting scent of everything having gone right. She sat near the window, a book open but unread in her lap, her body swayed by the rhythm of life below. The mixer's hum, the scrape of metal trays, the faint chatter of customers. It was all part of a melody she didn't need to lead. For the first time in what felt like forever, she felt no pull to improve, no impulse to perform. The day was complete as it was. A basket of clean linens rested beside her. Their folds caught the light in subtle waves, bright and soft, like the crest of a gentle tide. She reached out almost unconsciously and lifted one to her cheek. The fabric was cool, smelling faintly of lemon soap and the promise of morning. It brushed her skin like calm itself, a wordless assurance that there was nothing left to chase. She could hear the baker humming downstairs, a tune as familiar as breath. It mingled with the sound of the oven doors opening and closing, the creak of old hinges, the sigh of cooling bread. These ordinary sounds became holy in their repetition. Each was a reminder that the world doesn't need grandeur to be beautiful. It only needs presence. She leaned against the window frame and looked out. The rain from the night before had left the streets shining, each cobblestone still glistening with traces of silver. A young couple walked hand in hand, sharing a pastry wrapped in paper. A small dog trotted beside them, tail waving like a metronome keeping time. The sight made her smile, a small, genuine curve of contentment that reached her eyes. The book in her lap fluttered open as a soft breeze entered the loft. She placed her hand upon the page to steady it and saw the words she had written in her journal earlier that morning. I am learning to live at the speed of breath. She traced the line with her fingertip and felt something gentle stir inside her. A quiet knowing that this moment was exactly that. The loft, the scent, the sounds, her slow heartbeat, all moving together at the rhythm of life unhurried. From the bakery came a faint knock. A small hand appeared through the half-open door. a child's hand, no bigger than a teacup, holding out a paper bag. "From Papa," said a shy voice. She smiled and accepted it. "Tell him thank you." Inside was a single shortbread cookie, still warm. She broke it in half and tasted the buttery crumble melt on her tongue. It was sweet, but not cloying, delicate, but sure, like kindness made edible. The taste carried her somewhere tender, the thought of all the sweetness she'd hurried past in her life, too busy collecting accomplishments to savor the quiet joys waiting in the margins. The smell of fresh bread, the rhythm of rain, the pause between tasks where the soul breathes. She took another small bite, closing her eyes. The flavor expanded in her mouth, rich and soft. Each crumble felt like a reminder that joy can be both fleeting and infinite at once. That its truth is not in how long it lasts, but in how deeply it's received. The air shifted again. A faint golden dust of flour drifted up through the cracks in the floorboards, sparkling in the sunlight like a soft snowfall. She laughed. The sound, light and low. Everything here seemed touched by grace. Even flour became starlight when the light hit it right. She stood, wrapping the blanket around her shoulders, and wandered to the shelves. Each folded towel gleamed in the amber light, edges perfectly imperfect. She thought of how they would be used soon, wiping hands, wrapping bread, comforting heat. Each one would return to purpose without resistance. That thought moved her to serve quietly, to soften, to hold. That was its gift. Maybe it was hers too. The clock ticked softly from somewhere unseen. She breathed in rhythm with its slow seconds, her pulse steady and warm. Her mind, once trained to measure worth in hours and output, now floated free of numbers. There was no productivity here, only peace. Outside, the sunlight shifted again, sliding across the street and painting every window with liquid gold. She stood there for a while, watching the world glimmer, her reflection blending with the glow. When she finally sat again, her body melted into the chair, her breath deep and easy. The air hummed with quiet satisfaction, the sound of something fulfilled without effort. She rested her palms against her knees, closed her eyes, and listened. The bakery continued below. The city stretched around her. The afternoon leaned toward evening. Everything moved exactly as it should. She thought of the question that had guided her since arriving. Is there a gentler way to be? Now the answer was in everything. It was in the cookie crumb on her palm, the folded towel, the steady hum of the world continuing without her control. Yes, there is, she thought. and it feels like this. She smiled softly, letting her head rest back against the wall. The linen in her lap warmed from her touch. The scent of butter and flour curled through the air. Outside, the day slowed to a golden sigh. And as the sun began to dip toward the horizon, she closed her eyes, not to sleep, but to sink deeper into belonging. Chapter 6. The Evening Loaf. By evening, the world had softened again. The light that once poured through the window now gathered in quiet pools across the floor, warm and amber, like honey left out too long in the sun. The bakery below was closing. The rhythm slowed, the final clatter of trays, the low murmur of voices saying goodnight, the hush of brooms brushing flour into tidy lines. She leaned against the window, her chin resting on her folded arms, and watched the last customer leave. The bell over the bakery door rang once, a single sweet note, and then silence followed, complete and kind. The smell of bread lingered, thick and golden, weaving itself into the night. She could almost taste it in the air, the crust, the salt, the steam. It reminded her of all things that required patience to become what they were meant to be. Bread did not rush to rise. It simply trusted the time it was given. She stepped back into the center of the room, the floor creaking in small, familiar sighs. Her blanket waited where she had left it, folded neatly at the edge of the couch. She spread it out again, smoothing the wrinkles with slow palms, finding a rhythm in even that small act. Fold, smooth, breathe. The night itself seemed to join her, its dark edges softening into velvet. The air had cooled, sweetened by the lingering scent of sugar and spice. She lit the small lamp on the table. Its glow filled the space like candlelight inside a memory. Shadows stretched along the walls, tender and long. Each one felt like a story, moments of care cast in quiet silhouette. On the shelf, the folded linens waited for morning, their corners aligned perfectly, their softness promising usefulness. She ran her fingers over the stack, letting her hand rest there for a moment. These linens would meet tomorrow before she would, wrapping loaves, catching crumbs, holding warmth. She liked that thought. She liked the quiet humility of their service. She returned to the couch, wrapped herself in the blanket, and closed her eyes. The sounds of the evening rose and fell, distant footsteps, a window shutter closing, the sea of night deepening just beyond the rooftops. The air carried a whisper of rain again, a hint of renewal on its breath. Her body relaxed into the stillness, her thoughts folding neatly into the soft architecture of calm. For so long she had measured her days in accomplishment, Tonight, she measured them in ease. The warmth from the bakery ovens drifted up one last time like a final benediction. It wrapped around her shoulders, gentle as a shawl, and she felt her heart slow to match its rhythm. The pulse of her day, once busy and bright, now moved at the same steady pace as rising dough, unseen, unhurried, inevitable. A small question stirred within her, soft, familiar, harmless. What remains when the doing is done? She didn't need to answer. The air had already whispered it. Being. She smiled, eyes still closed. The simplicity of it felt like grace. Outside, the rain returned in a fine mist, touching the window with silver threads. She opened her eyes just enough to see the droplets forming, then sliding down, tracing tiny paths of surrender. They shimmered briefly in the lamplight before disappearing into the sill. None of them fought their fall. Each one found its way. The sight brought tears to her eyes, though not from sadness, only recognition. Life, she realized, is not meant to be gripped so tightly. It is meant to be touched, felt, and then released, like a loaf cooling on a rack, giving its warmth to the room before resting into itself. She lay back, tucking the blanket under her chin, the sound of rain turning to rhythm above. The scent of bread still hovered in the air, mingling with the faint sweetness of vanilla and clean linen. Her breathing slowed, deepened, became music again, steady and unhurried, the same song she had learned to hear in the rain, in the folding, in the stillness. The city lights blinked through the window, dim and drowsy. The world outside went on turning, but here, above the bakery, time itself seemed to pause. As her eyelids grew heavy, she thought of morning, the first loaves rising, the warmth returning, the linens unfolding again. Everything would begin anew. She smiled into the dark, her heart light as flower in the air. Sleep came not as escape, but as invitation, an exhale so complete it became prayer. And the loft, perfumed with cinnamon and calm, breathed with her, holding her like a promise. Below, the ovens cooled. Above, the woman who had finally learned to rest drifted softly into dreams. The rain whispered one last word against the glass. Enough.